Electrical distribution. Wiring types. Wire types for North American wiring practices are defined by the standards issued by Underwriters Laboratories, the Canadian Standards Association, the American Society for Testing and Materials, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, and the Insulated Cable Engineers Association. Most circuits in the modern North American home and light commercial construction are wired with non-metallic sheathed NM cable designated type, often referred to by the brand name Romex. This type of cable is the least expensive for a given size and is appropriate for dry indoor applications. Conductor materials. As discussed previously, we are dealing with copper, absolutely the best conductor in common use as it has low electrical impedance, so a relatively small conductor can deliver a lot of power over long distances without too much power loss or heat generation. Tinned copper, still sometimes seen on older properties. Copper is tinned for two reasons: to aid soldering and to stop the copper from reacting with old rubber insulation. Aluminum, a good conductor of electricity but has higher impedance to the flow of electrons, which means that larger conductors need to be used for any given amperage. Aluminum was used for residential branch circuit wiring from the mid-1960s to the late 1970s, but was found to be unreliable. We'll explore this later. Copper-clad aluminum. Coating aluminum in copper was an attempt to overcome the issue of oxidation of the aluminum conductors that was leading to failures. It did not have the failures associated with pure aluminum and is considered safe. However, copper-clad should be sized the same as normal aluminum. Knob and tube. Knob and tube wiring is so named because of the porcelain fittings used to support and insulate the conductors from the timber components in the home. The knob holds the wire away from rafters and joists while the tubes are inserted into holes bored through joists and studs to protect the conductor and its rubber insulation. Knob and tube wiring was the most common method used to wire homes in the United States prior to 1930. Knob and tube is a two-wire system with a hot, ungrounded, and neutral grounded conductor only. No separate ground is used, so all receptacles would have to be two-prong only. The home inspector should report any knob and tube wiring as in need of further evaluation by an electrical contractor due to the following reasons. The insulation is often very brittle and leaves conductors exposed when disturbed. All circuits are ungrounded, which will not suit many modern electronics such as computers, televisions, and stereos. The conductors are often buried in attic and wall insulation. This is a problem as they were designed to work in free air. The wire gauge is commonly 14 gauge only, which is not sufficient for most modern household needs. It's very common for knob and tube wiring to have been added to over the years, and it may contain many splices outside of approved enclosures. Originally, joints in knob and tube were all spliced, soldered, and tapped outside of enclosures. Armored cable, AC. Conductors protected by a spiral-wound outer metal sheathing have been around since the early part of the century, and they gained wide acceptance in the 1930s, especially after the NEC's acceptance of the 1932 code. Several types of AC cable exist, and they are not all the same. The earliest type was introduced by General Electric under their brand name BX. Many people still wrongly call all type AC cables by this name. Type AC cables fall into two categories: those with an internal bonding conductor and those without. In many cases, the sheathing itself or its internal bond has been used improperly as the grounding conductor, or even worse, as the neutral conductor. As of 1959, the NEC has required that all type AC cable include a bonding strip that connects all the individual convolutions. The older BX cable did not have this, and the exterior metal casing was not meant to be an effective fault current path. Since the 1960s, a newer type of AC cable assembly came on the market. The improved MC cable includes a proper grounding conductor. Exterior flexible conduit. This is often seen by the home inspector as the supply conduit to outside installations, such as air conditioning compressors. This AC BX type conduit has a PVC outer sheathing to render it watertight, which should be marked UF for exterior use. It is not approved for direct burial, however. Rigid conduit. Different types of rigid conduit are available for different applications, and some are more common in some regions than others. The three primary types used are EMT, thin wall. This is electrical metal tubing which can be bent to shape for installation. RMC, thick wall. This is a threaded, rigid metal conduit where any changes of direction require angled fittings. RNC, PVC conduit, often referred to as Schedule 40 or 80 plastic. This gray-colored, rigid, non-metallic conduit is very common in newer construction, but should not be confused with white or ivory-colored PVC piping, which is not rated for electrical use. Non-metallic cable, NM. Many people use the name Romex when referring to type NM cable. Romex is a trademarked name that has come into common usage for referring to plastic-covered wires, but type NM just means non-metallic and also applies to other cable styles. The earliest NM cables were, in fact, rubber-insulated copper conductors bound together as an assembly with a woven cloth sheathing. Originally approved by the NEC in 1928 as a replacement for knob and tube wiring, it became the most common residential wiring used from the late 1940s up to the introduction of modern thermoplastic, or Romex, type wiring in the early 1960s. Prior to 1985, standard NM was rated for 60-degree applications, which was increased to 90 degrees and is now marked NMB. In type NM cable, conductor insulation is color-coded for identification, typically one black, one white, and a bare grounding conductor. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifies that the black conductor represents the hot conductor with significant voltage to earth ground. The white conductor represents the identified or neutral conductor, near ground potential, and the bare or green conductor, the safety grounding conductor, not normally used to carry circuit current. UF, underground feeder cable. UF stands for underground feeder cable. UF is a type of electrical cable commonly used in outdoor and underground installations. What is UF cable? Construction. UF cable is designed with insulation that surrounds each wire individually and is encased in a tough, moisture-resistant outer jacket. Material. Often has conductors made of copper and can handle various amperage ratings depending on the gauge. Installation. Can be directly buried in the ground, earth, soil, or dirt without needing additional conduit, making it ideal for underground or wet location installations. Key uses for UF cable: outdoor lighting and power, often used to power outdoor lights, landscape lighting, and garden features. Detached structures, provides power to outbuildings like sheds, garages, and workshops. Permanent outdoor appliances, ideal for pumps, pool equipment, and other outdoor devices that need a reliable underground power source.